5, part A says that this cubic here has exactly one real root. So they're already telling us there's a root to find. It wants us to use the Newton-Raphson formula, which is in your formula booklets. Now, what annoyed me when I was marking the marks was that you'd messed up writing the formula down. The formula is xn plus 1 is equal to xn minus f of xn over f dash xn. Loads of you missed off this xn. You were never going to ever get this. But it's a show that question, so even if you messed up part A, you should still have been able to answer part B and any other part question that you had. That's the advantage of having show that questions. Don't be put off if you can't do the show that, because you can still access the rest of the question and pick up maybe 6 or 7 marks in a 9-mark question if part A is worth 3. So you've got to keep going, you've got to be resilient and keep going even if you mess up part of the question or you think you can't do part of the question. You've got to keep trying to do the other parts that will get you more marks. Anyway, we need f dash x. We need to, this is my f of x here, so I'm going to find the derivative of that, which is going to be 6x squared plus 2x. And then I can write down that xn plus 1 is equal to xn minus 2xn cubed plus xn squared, take 1, over 6xn squared plus 2xn. Now, for some reason, this isn't good enough. They don't like just putting, or sometimes they don't want us to just put our value in. They like us to rearrange it. They like us to bring this in as one fraction. So you're going to have to get used to doing this. It's not hard, it's just weird that they like us to do it. So we need a common denominator. I'm going to times my xn over 1 by 6x squared plus 2x, which is going to give me this. Notice this is a takeaway, so when we come to bring it together, we're going to have to subtract each term. That's easy, an easy mistake to make as well. Okay, so we can bring it all together as one fraction now. We're going to have 6xn cubed plus 2xn squared minus 2xn cubed minus xn squared plus 1 all over 6xn squared plus 2xn. If we tidy up the top, we've got 4xn cubed, we have 1xn squared and a plus 1. And that's hopefully what they've got. Yeah. Okay, so get used to doing that. It's not hard, really straightforward. That everybody should be picking those 3 marks up. You should be glad if you get a question like that because it's so straightforward. Just don't mess it up. Write the formula down correctly. That helps. Okay, part C says explain why for this question x1 equals 0 won't work. Explain why it can't be used. Now, the reason is because it's a stationary point. If we work out f dash x, that's what you should always check. You should always be suspicious if it tells you you can't use a value, and it's when there's a stationary point. So I think if we substitute this in, oh well, yeah, we'll get 0, won't we? So x equals 0 is a stationary point. So, and you can't use stationary points, because if you try to, what's happening is we're trying to use the gradient. That gradient's not going to be a good one. Use the gradient to find. So if we use a tangent line, it's going to hopefully get closer to this value that we're looking for. If we put the next value in, it's going to get closer again. If we use a stationary point, so if my curve looked like, say, this, and I wanted to find this point, if I used the stationary point, I'd have a horizontal line, and it's never going to hit the x-axis again, so we're never going to find this value. So the reason it won't work is because it's a stationary point, so the line created is a tangent to the curve, so won't intersect the x-axis again, or whatever. It won't intersect the x-axis. Unfortunately, the mark scheme specifically said do not allow that you can't divide by 0, which is true, but the mark scheme said they wouldn't allow that. The textbook that accompanies Edexcel said that was a valid reason. However, the mark scheme says it's not. So, lots of you said it was because you can't divide by 0, and you are correct, but it wasn't allowed. So what I would suggest, if this kind of question did come up in the future, that you write both things down. You write the geometric reason, so what we've discussed here, and I would also say that it's because you can't divide by 0, and they will mark what's correct and ignore what's not necessary. So it's not wrong for you to put that you can't divide by 0. They just didn't want it in this question.